Do I ever have a story for you? It's not good. So you might have noticed I am not in my usual studio with my usual background, and as the title would suggest that I'm sure you've already read, that is because that room is submerged in poo water. It is literally a situation. So this story begins, I guess, 2 years ago when I built the house that I'm currently recording this video in and have been recording videos in for the last 2 years. I built it specifically with the basement to house my personal collection of football boots and sneakers, and then I created a studio/office to record all the content for you guys to make it the best quality possible. And honestly, it's been a joy to work in this particular environment, but it has filled up with a ton of football boots over the last 2 years. Between sneakers and football boots, there's probably at least 2,000 pairs down in the SR4U boot room. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you haven't seen it before, I'm going to leave a little pop-up on screen to the SR4U boot room tour that I made when it was first completed. Fast forward to yesterday, it's about 5:30 p.m. and I'm sitting in this very room editing on my computer the video that was going to go up in a couple of hours. And directly next to me, attached to this room, is a bathroom that I had used about 10 minutes prior. All of a sudden, I happen to notice a very particular smell in the air, and I don't need to explain this to you, I don't want to sound gross, but it smelled a little bit like poo, and I kind of just assumed that it was me from 10 minutes ago. And I was kind of a little bit surprised, because I'm like, why all of a sudden is it starting to smell? But I didn't really think too much of it. I turned the fan on in the bathroom, and I just continued to edit. 10 more minutes go by, and the smell seems to be getting worse. And at this point, I'm thinking, hey, maybe that wasn't me. Something is probably wrong. So I leave the room, start walking down the stairs, because this room is on the second level. And I happen to notice that as I'm going down the stairs, the smell is getting worse and worse and worse. And I figure, hey, maybe it's coming from down in the basement where the SR4U boot room is. So I go down the stairs, and again, the smell is getting worse and worse and worse. So I'm kind of walking around looking for the smell. I'm like thinking maybe one of my cats just decided to maybe poo somewhere, and that's what smells really bad. I don't know what's happening. But I turn to go check in the furnace room, which is at the very back of the SR4U boot room. It's the only unfinished part of that entire basement, and it's filled with water. So at this point, I'm kind of panicked and not even realizing that the poo smell is as strong as it has ever been. I'm just kind of seeing the puddle, and laying in that puddle is all of my hockey equipment that I keep in that room just on the floor, sitting in water. So I immediately kind of jump in, run in there to try and save the hockey equipment, splashing the water all over the place, at which point I realize it's not just regular water, it's murky brown water with poo floating around in it. And I'm sorry if this is gross, but it's a gross story. Basically what was happening is raw sewage was being pumped into my basement with no way to stop it. So this raw sewage/poo water is flowing into my basement at a pace that I cannot contain. I tried laying a row of towels to kind of stop it from getting too far into the SR4U boot room, but it blew past the towels like they weren't even there. So I kind of decided at this point there was no way for me to really stop this. I had made some phone calls and got in contact with the city to try and get somebody to stop this, because I'm not exactly sure why it's happening. I called a couple plumbers as well, and they were all telling me that there's nothing they can do. It sounds like there is something wrong with the sewer, which only the city can take care of. So it's pretty much at their mercy at this point. So I decided it would just be best to try and save what I can save, because I had a ton of football boots on the floor. So kind of ran through the entire office, managed to save my camera equipment, managed to save I think most of the special boots that were on the floor that were pretty much irreplaceable. But it got to a point where it just filled up in a matter of 20 minutes, and the entire SR4U boot room, my office and studio included, was pretty much submerged in poo water. It's really gross to think about now, but for a good 20 minutes barefoot, I was splashing through poo water trying to save my football boot collection. It did eventually get to a point though where there was just too much water, it was coming in too quickly, and the smell was so unbearable that I just had to bail out, and at that point, whatever was submerged in water was going to be destroyed pretty much no matter what. Eventually, help arrived, and by eventually I mean about 4.5 hours later, and sure enough, there is a sewer hole thing, I'm not exactly sure what to call it, in front of my house. They opened it up, and it's clogged. And basically what the sewer expert guy told me is that that's kind of the choke point for the entire neighborhood. So my house is basically at the lowest point, and the way sewers work apparently is that everything is kind of like a downhill thing in terms of pressure, and this is the lowest point, and that of course is where it's clogged. As far as why it was clogged, they're kind of thinking that there was some recent road work done and they dropped some debris into the sewer, and that eventually clogged it over the course of the last couple of days. And because my basement in particular, the SR4U boot room that I designed specifically to store my collection, I decided it would be a good idea to pay for an extra foot for the ceiling height to just store more boots. So my basement is actually 1 foot deeper than all of my neighbors, which means that it is the very lowest point for the sewage to basically have all of the pressure build up and then explode into my basement. And that's exactly what happened. So basically, if you're not understanding, what was happening was all of the sewage from the entire couple blocks of my neighborhood was being pumped directly into my basement. So toilet water, poo, pee, shower water, whatever it was all coming into my basement at an uncontrollable rate. So it's now the next day, and as we speak, there is actually a cleaning crew down in the basement, decontaminating it, getting rid of all the poo, getting rid of the smell, tearing out the floor, tearing up the walls. They are basically getting rid of anything that was on the floor and made contact with this poo water, because it's no longer safe to have in your house. It's no longer safe for anybody to own because it was just exposed to the feces of my entire neighborhood, apparently. As far as my boot collection is concerned, luckily the majority of it was actually on shelving units that was off the ground, I think just enough to avoid the pooling of water, but I'm not entirely sure at this point because I'm technically not allowed to go down there because it's deemed unsafe. They're kind of wearing hazmat suits. It's apparently very dangerous to be treading in poo water, even though I did it yesterday for half an hour. Either way, I'm not entirely sure of what the damages are, but if I'm guessing based on what was down there on the floor, I'm thinking that about 400 pairs of football boots have been destroyed. Which sucks because that is a huge chunk of my collection, and a lot of those boots are not replaceable at all. But hey, it is what it is. It's something that was beyond my control. And there's nothing I can do about it. For those who are concerned, don't be concerned. I have insurance for this, so as far as getting the house fixed, that's not something that I'm too worried about, but there is a lot of stuff that was on the floor that is pretty irreplaceable, and I'm not going to have it anymore. It definitely sucks. My boot collection is something that I have dedicated a lot of time and effort to over the last couple of years of my life, so again, it's not an ideal situation for me, but I can't be too upset about it. It's something that, like I said, is beyond my control, and I'm just going to have to move on from it. I am, however, very curious to see what is actually destroyed, and if you guys would be interested in maybe an update follow-up video as far as getting to see some of what has actually been ruined, let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. Maybe just support this video with a like, and I can definitely make that happen. As far as content on the channel is concerned, obviously I'm not going to have access to my studio, I'm thinking, for the next couple of days at least. So as far as the content on the channel is concerned, I know that I kind of promised daily content. I'm not sure if I can keep that promise over the next little while. I will try my best. But as of right now, they're making a lot of noise. I can't record down there. It's literally a room full of poo, so there's not much I can do about it at this point. But as long as I can make content, I will try to make content for you guys. But that's basically been the story of my life over the last 18 hours. Hopefully you guys found this entertaining. Maybe you're saddened by this news. I'm not entirely sure what to think myself. I'm still kind of a little bit disturbed that I was running through poo water for half an hour. Either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and this story. If you did, please support it with a like. That would help me out a lot, I guess, for some reason. Also, if you have any questions or any kind of suggestions for content you'd like to see maybe based around this particular situation, let me know what that is down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed already, there is more content on the way. Make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one, whenever that is.